Brunton. Spiritual wisdom couched in words has always been available through the Vedas, the Upanishads, the Dhammapada, Tao Te Ching, the Bible, the Torah, the Quran, the Zen Avesta, the Bhagavad Gita, and scriptures of other spiritual traditions. But the word is not the thing. The word water is not water. It will not quench our thirst. On the other hand, if you have a sip of water, the miracle takes place. Apply the same analogy to spirituality. You can pride yourself on book knowledge, but this is like holding on to the word water. How then can we experience the truth, and what is the purpose of all the scriptures? Sages and saints would not have left behind those holy words without a purpose. A sage lives the truth every moment of his life, and people from all over the world, attracted to him by his teachings and life, a life lived in truth, proximity to deep truth, they imbibe that truth and finally experience that truth. Because in that particular human frame, they see the truth of what the scriptures describe. When we read about the lives of Bhagavan's old devotees, we see that Bhagavan Sri Ramana Maharshi, like Jesus Christ and the Buddha, lived the truth every moment. He was available all 24 hours, and there were no rules and regulations. His doors were always open, and his old devotees lived in his proximity, witnessed the truth walking on two legs, talking with its mouth, and looking through its eyes. I am indeed fortunate that I could live with them and see how they too were steeped in the truth. When reading about them, the truth seeps into our heart, perhaps imperceptibly. That is the only way you can have a link with the ultimate truth, which otherwise looks unattainable. This next devotee is a luminary who came to make the whole world know that the darkness is not true. He was known as Raphael Hurst, the first Western devotee of Bhagavan, who openly declared that by the grace of Ramana Maharshi, he was blessed with the inner vision of illumination. Popularly known through his pen name, Brunton, he was a great writer who went through many ups and downs in his spiritual life. You will be surprised how much it is like our own life. Sometimes we feel we are on a spiritual peak, and at other times as if we are in an abyss. But when we depend on and surrender to the higher power, there is never a failure. Brunton once wrote, "My own final illumination happened in 1963. There was this bomb-like explosion of consciousness. It came of itself, and I realized that the divine had always been with me and in me. The word I was pronounced in me. I saw that it was the only reality. I am is the foundation of truth and reality of the whole existence. Although I had descended deep into my being and experienced timelessness, I was still able to live in my surface being and experience time. The two experiences went on side by side, and I saw my body as a mere shell, and all the other people's bodies as shells. I felt like a bird free from all desires and really detached from everything. I was not the body and felt so free of it that I knew I could not die. And that in the real I would always be able to live, for I am is God. Deep down within my heart, I lived in an everlasting now. What a consummate, inspiring summing up of one's inner realization. That self-realization can be attained by you and me through self-inquiry, and it's amply proved by Paul Brunton's life. The way Paul Brunton was guided by the higher power throughout his apparent struggles, how whenever he was falling down, the higher power was helping him up, all of it is a great benefit for us and a pointer to every seeker that if you surrender to the higher power, which is the I am within each one of us, within each one's heart, that higher power will lead us through. Brunton adhered to that and followed the instructions so arduously that he was led to a state of perfection. That is why when I first read about his attainment in 1963, I was convinced it is possible. It is a very strong force which we have to imbibe in our own spiritual life. When Brunton was in school, his geography master's voice, uttering the word India, sent quivers of joy through his body. Later, when he located it on the world map, he again experienced quivers of joy. This sound, India, and his locating it in the map was the beginning of his quest for the true self, for truth. The strong urge to go to India at that tender age was not just a fleeting thought, it was the higher power guiding him. In his adolescence, Brunton felt a widening chasm between himself and his surroundings. He even wanted to end his life. But the very thought of ending his life aroused in him a curiosity to know what is death and what is after death. From where could he have got this urge to know, except from the higher power? He then went to the British Museum's library and studied all the theories on death. He pored through texts and treatises on occultism, mysticism, Rosicrucianism, Buddhism, Christian mysticism, and yoga. He was so interested in knowing more that he joined the Theosophical Society. Within 2 years, he got disappointed with their claims. However, Theosophy induced in him a great urge to know more about Occidental and Oriental mysticism. Strangely enough, he soon dropped his interest in mysticism and occultism and put all his attention into learning journalism. This was again the higher power guiding him, this time to be a great writer. He started writing powerful passages that attracted the attention of commoners and scholars alike. For instance, he wrote, "What did Jesus Christ mean when he rebuked those who sought to enter the kingdom of heaven like thieves breaking in over a wall?" And Jesus meant that they were trying to enter without giving up their ego, without denuding their consciousness of ego's rule. Who are these robbers? They are the seekers of occult powers. But even while he was becoming well known for his incisive writing, there was this conflict lurking in his mind. Should I continue with journalism and become famous or pursue spiritual practices? This was the struggle with him. He met 2 teachers, Alan Bennett and Thurston. They tried to point him in the right direction, but it was a turbaned Indian who influenced him and encouraged him to go and do research in Indian yoga. There was another change in his life. He got married and also had a son, Kenneth Hurst. Later, I had the good fortune to meet Kenneth and get from him some of Brunton's unpublished manuscripts, which were later published under the title Conscious Immortality. After Brunton passed on, Kenneth brought out 16 volumes of his father's writings. A significant turning point in Brunton's life came in 1930 when he was 32 years old. There was a strong urge in him to know and investigate what Indian yoga was. He soon sailed to Mumbai, determined to find out about the greatness of India's seers, sages, and saints. and their centuries-old wisdom. He traveled throughout India, meeting, questioning, and observing sages, saints, messiahs, mystics, and astrologers, all of which resulted in the famous, awe-inspiring book, A Search in Secret India. During these travels, he came to Chennai. There, in the hermitage of a silent sage, a man named Subramanya accosted him and insisted that Brunton come with him to meet his master on the hill of the Holy Beacon. Brunton refused. Not put off, Subramanya told Brunton that he would come and see him the next evening. After he returned to his hotel, Brunton went to see an author called Venkataramani, to whom he had a letter of introduction. The next morning, Venkataramani took him to his guru, the Shankaracharya of the Kamakakoti Muth, the pontiff of many Hindus in South India. On being asked about any genuine spiritual master that he could meet, the Shankaracharya extracted a promise from Brunton that no matter what, he would go to the hill of the Holy Beacon and meet Ramana Maharshi. When he returned to his room that evening, whom would he see there but Subramanya, waiting to take him to his master, Bhagavan Sri Ramana Maharshi.